Okay, this video is adding and subtracting fractions with common denominators. So let's start out with a little visual here to sort of show what we're talking about. So we've got two fractions here. The first one, okay, again, how many parts make up the whole? 4. How many parts do I have? 2. How many parts does it take to make a whole in the second one? 4. How many parts do I have? 1. So again, these have common denominators, meaning that the bottom number is the same. So they're both 4 parts to make a whole. So what we're dealing with here is I'm going to have another exact visual. Yep, exactly the same. And I'm wondering what my total is here when I add these together. So what I'm doing, again, it only takes 4 to make a whole. And now I'm just figuring out how many parts I have when I put all these together. So again, we have 1 part here, 1 there, 1 there. So I have 3 parts, 2 plus 1. Okay, it's going to equal 3 over 4. Or if I do the visual of them, and I put all those parts and I move them over here, okay, I'm going to have 3 of them out of the whole. So the important, or the biggest mistake that occurs with this is when we would go 2 fourths plus 1 fourth equals 3/8. Okay, now why is that incorrect? Again, because we've changed now how many parts it takes to make a whole. We're not changing it. We're adding the parts that we have together. We're not adding the parts in one fraction that it takes to make a whole to the parts that it takes to make a whole in another one. Okay, so we're adding the parts that we have, which in this one up here is 3 parts, and I put the 3 parts into one whole, which is the 4 spaces there. So let's look at a few examples here. So remember the rules: add with common denominators, keep the denominator, add the numerators. So let's go to some questions here. Okay, so here we go. There's just a bunch here, and we'll see as we go forward. Same steps every single time. So I'm going to keep my denominator, and I'm going to add these two together. So 3 plus 2 is 5. So there we go. 2/7 plus 3/7 is 5 over 7. Number 2, 1 quarter and 2 quarters. We just did this one. So again, I'm going to keep the quarters, and I have 3 of them. Next one, I'm going to keep the ninths because we're adding ninths. How many parts do I have? 1 and 4 is 5. Down number 6 here. Fifths to make a whole. I have 3 and I have 1, so I have 4. 4 and 3 is 7, and they are ninths. 3 and 4 is 7, and they are in eighths. Okay, 5 and 1 is 6, and they are in sevenths. 8 and 3 is 11, and they're in twelfths. 2 and 2 is 4, and we're in fifths. 8 and 3 is 11, and we're in 14ths. 3 and 4 is 7, and we're in 16ths. 5 and 2 is 7, and we're in eighths. 1 and 5 were 6, and we're in eighths. Now, one thing I want to mention, now this one tips me off here, now I remember, we always, whenever we're adding or subtracting fractions, we want to make sure the answers are in lowest terms. So these here, again, consecutive numbers, just a reminder of what lowest terms is, then it's in lowest terms. We're trying basically to make the numerator and denominator into a new fraction that is equivalent, but those two digits are the smallest possible. So 11 over 14, again, they have no common factors other than 1, so they're in lowest terms. 7 and 16, same thing. Factors for 7, 1 and 7. 7 isn't a factor of 16. 1 is, so that's the only common factor they have. So as we go along here, let's go back to this one. So 6 and 8. What's our common factor of 6 and 8? 2. So we're dividing each by 2, and it'll get us into our lowest terms. So 6/8 in lowest terms is 3/4. Okay, so we'll see if we catch any more here. So 4 over 7. Now, one thing to remember, usually if you got a prime number as your denominator, since it's prime and the only factor is 1 in itself, not usually, always, it's in lowest terms. Okay, 14 and 3 is 17 over 19. Okay, there's another prime number in 19. 8 over, I wrote 19 because I was saying 19. 8 over 16. So that one right there, boom, I know that 8 goes into 16. So I'm going to divide that by 8. and divide that by 8. That gives me 1/2. So this is 4 over 9. Okay, so then there's only the 2 that we had to reduce. Let's try it. Oh, so now we're going to subtraction. So subtraction is the exact same thing. We subtract going left to right. We keep the denominator the same. So this one again is going to be 10. 5 subtract 3 is 2. There I have 2 even numbers, so I know that I can reduce it. Factors of 2 are 1 and 2. 2 is a factor of 10, so divide both by 2. Gives us 1/5. 4 subtract 2 is 2. And 6, again, divide by 2 because 2 is a factor of 6. 1/3. Okay, 15 subtract 5 is 10 over 24. 10 is not a factor of 24, but 10 and 24 do have a common factor. Remember, the factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. So I can divide these by 2, and that's going to give me 5 over 12. Okay, 7 subtract 3 is 4 over 10. Okay, 2 evens there, so I know this one's divided by 2, and 2 is going to give me 2/5. 9 subtract 3 is 6 over 11. No common factors other than 1. 10 subtract 5 is 5 over 21. No common factors other than 1. 5 subtract 2 is 3 over 6. 3 is a common factor, so then I divide by 3 is 1/2. Not sure what happened to my page here. It's a little out of line. 14 subtract 7 is 7 over 16. No common factors other than 1. 1/4 is in lowest terms. It's a 1 on the top. You know it's in lowest terms. 6 over 9. We're going to divide each of those by 3. Okay, and that's going to give us 2/3. 5 over 4, 5 subtract 4 is 1. Keep 8 as the denominator, 1/8. That's in lowest terms. 8 subtract 3 is 5 over 20. Divide each of those by 5, as 5 is a common factor. That might give you 1 over 4. And then 3 over 12. 3 is a common factor. So I'm going to get 1 over 4. Okay, so that's how we're doing adding and subtracting fractions. So again, you're adding or subtracting the numerators only, and you're keeping the denominator. We have to have common denominators to do this. In the next video, we'll get to what do we do if we don't have common denominators. But for now, denominator's there, and they're both the same. Keep it in the answer, and then add my 2 numerators together. So this would be 6. Once I have my answer, then I check and see if I can reduce it. Again, looking for greatest common factor, which in this instance would be 3. Divide them both by the same number. That's going to give me 2/3. This one's going to be 6 over 12. Common factor of 6 is going to give me 1/2. So that's how we add and subtract fractions with common denominators.